Yeah, would you keep it down?
Does it work? Perfect.
Had to fix her hearing aids. Fall away. Fall away. He had gone away and he was going to be gone for a couple of weeks. That's what I'm assuming. He went somewhere, huh?
Oh, I just feel
yeah. I hope so.
Recording in progress.
Hey. Why is that showing that on top of this?
I don't know.
Yeah, how to get that off from the top?
Well, you're not even all the way on it. That whole thing on the left needs to X out.
Yeah, where's the X word?
There, up there, the view. Where? Oh no, that's the meeting.
That's stuff on the left.
Yeah.
Anybody know how to do it?
You just click on the other side, like the desk on the other side.
Yeah, click on the town of Danby.
Click over here versus town of Danby.
Let's see.
Move your mouse.
Here comes please.
Yeah, just put.
Okay.
Now you can see.
I said the same thing, right?
That's better.
It was just a gamble. Yeah.
So I apologize for my tardiness. Back.
No.
Yeah, it did. You know, I think it was moving a ladder like 2 days ago. It's gotten worse, better. Okay, we ready? Okay, so welcome to all there in Zoom land and to those who attending in person. This is the first regular town board meeting of the month of October. There's one addition to the agenda. It's the Ag District comment or not. Let's move that down to the. We'd like to move it down. To put them at the end. I'd like to move it to the just before the budget. It's okay.
Yeah.
Can I chime in and ask you to speak a little bit more clearly into the microphone, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, in fact, if you wouldn't mind mentioning it whenever you have trouble hearing any of us.
Yeah.
Will do. Thank you.
Any other additions or deletions? Okay. Over to the floor. Anyone who'd like to address the board? Go ahead, Rhonda. You are.
I didn't hear myself being called, but because I can't hear you, but I have one tiny thing and then a bigger thing. The tiny thing is that a notary is not allowed to notarize themselves. And therefore, when in a situation where you have only one notary in the town operation, in the town hall, the notary, the town clerk, cannot notarize herself. And so when she prepares her report, she cannot notarize that report. That's just, you should be hiring somebody or sending somebody out to get commissioned as a notary so that you have two notaries in the office. That's always a safe thing to do. Second thing is that I don't see Laura here, and I had emailed her and asked her if...
I'm here.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Because she's in the audience, you don't see her, but she's here.
Okay. So my question is for Laura. I still haven't heard from you as to what happened to the money that was appropriated for the Jennings Pond personnel. And I would like to know what happened to that money.
I'm sorry, I wasn't able.
You have the mic.
Sorry, I didn't get right back to you. I've been so busy getting this budget prepared for tonight and trying to get this tentative budget turned in, and with the deadlines. But what happens with that money for the pond, and what happens with any of the money that does not get spent, it rolls over into the fund balance at the end of the year. So it rolls over into the fund balance. Now we go into the next budget year. You'll see that with this budget. So the money that we did not use this year for the pond, we're going to budget another $7,000 for the pond next year, if that's what the board decides to do. We're going to budget that. And then we're going to take that out of the fund balance and not go out and ask the public for it again, because it's something that we had. So as far as the accounting goes, it rolls to the fund balance. And then if we want to budget for it again, that's how we show it.
Okay,
so
good.
It doesn't just get lost in space somewhere. We know right where it is and how we're using it.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Sorry that but actually, I'm sorry I didn't get back to you on email, but I'm glad you asked that question, because there's probably other people that want to know the same.
Okay, I think Ted had his hand up next.
He did.
Brain.
Well, I was perfectly happy to hear what Gary and Teresa had to say first. You have added to your agenda a discussion about the agricultural district review for agricultural district 2. And I would like to urge the board to do as you did 4 years ago with agricultural district 1, to identify properties that were once agricultural and may have been included in an agricultural district, but are now not realistically agricultural. That is, they've become residential and are now in residential districts. The arguments for and against this are pretty clear and well known. If you make a mistake, it's very easy to get yourself added back into an agricultural district, usually much more quickly than it'll take to plant and grow your first crop. On the other hand, the damage that can be done when an agricultural use that was never envisioned when ag districts started, like restaurants and commercial activities that are associated with farms. When that happens in a residential neighborhood, that's a bad thing. So I think you should look at it. And in particular, I think you should cast your eye on the ag district property that is right on the shoreline of Jennings Pond. Let's see, there was something other tax cap. You know, the tax cap has overriding a tax cap has become something somewhat de rigueur in New York State, because the limitations that the tax cap imposes are often unrealistic. And so I'm sure that you will consider carefully whether you can stay under the tax cap. If it's a no-brainer, then don't pass it, don't override it. But if it's not, and you don't intend to increase the budget unnecessarily or in a very large percentage, then you're going to have to do it. And finally, I'd like to point out something. The Community Council is hosting candidate forums in a week or two. And unfortunately, the Danby TownBoard News failed to mention the fact that it is the Community Council that is doing that and has asked the League of Women Voters to moderate it. I find that omission disquieting. And for what it's worth, it would be also useful if in the Town Board News you spelled the names of town officials correctly. I refer to Todd Sukantarak and Greg Hutnick, whose apparently last name is Hunter. Just a typo, I'm sure, but it's a question of checking carefully. Thank you.
Gary? Or Teresa. Actually, Teresa's unmuted first.
Okay.
Well, go ahead, Gary. You can go first. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to piggyback on what Rhonda said. As far as the pond, I don't foresee even putting that leaving it in the budget for next year. The way the pond is right now, a few people have been over there. I have a couple of times, and it's no place you'd want your kids to swim with all the geese and the goose crap and the seaweed and it's no place for kids to swim. And it's part of New York State parks. I don't know why we should have to take care of it and house it with a lifeguard, or even put it in the budget and having the taxpayers continue paying taxes on the same thing that we're not going to use, or that's not going to be used. Also, another example would be, and I don't know how this plays out, but last year, the courts, we had $4,000 set aside for court security. That was in case we had any cases, jury trials or bench trials that we thought might be a problem. We could hire somebody to come in just to show presence and not make sure there's no issues. Now, we haven't used it so far, and knock on wood, our criminal cases they haven't gone down, but we don't have near as many as the other courts. And I don't, right now with the cases we have, I don't anticipate using that, but you never know. But why can't we either leave that $4,000 in the court account, or if we have to turn it back to the general fund, set it in a separate side, set it aside in the general fund for court use, for security court use, and instead of charging the taxpayers every year for the same thing, which we may not use.
Well, as Laura explained with regard to the fund, we did the same thing with the court, which is to say that $4,000, if it's not used, ends up in the fund balance, but then we appropriated it to put it back in the budget.
From the fund balance.
Fund the fund balance.
So that it's not being retaxed to the people again.
Correct.
No, correct.
Okay. I understand that now. Okay, thank you.
Teresa.
Excuse me. Hi. I just wanted Rhonda to know that there is a notary public in the court if needed. I know that our hours aren't every day, but in an emergency, and if someone needed a notary, they could get in touch with me, and I'd be more than happy to do that. Also, I would ask that the town board please consider keeping the option of the meetings being virtual. I just worry once the weather starts getting bad that, you know, people might not be able to make it into the town hall. I don't know if it's that much of an issue for you to keep doing it, but I do appreciate having it virtual.
I think if we're up to us, we would probably all be meeting virtually.
Oh, and that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, Janice, is there any correspondence?
No, there was not.
Or announcements either, right? Other than
Just
one
the ones about the vacancies. Yep.
Right. Oh, yeah. Right. As part of our annual review of expiring terms, we're supposed to review them in October, and November, and here we are. So the Dennis has done us a favor of listing what's up, and Leslie did much the same thing. We adopted a policy in 2020, Resolution 70, that makes the contacting of the people whose terms are expiring a responsibility of the town clerk. And Janice is happy to do that for us, so that's good. Thank you, Janice. So there are at least one position on every board and committee that expires every year. Some of them have more than one, notably the CAC, which has a 2-year appointment, and 9 seats should have 4 or 5 each year. And of the current membership, what, 3?
What?
The CAC. There's only 2.
There's 2 vacancies.
Yeah. Those 2 vacancies, there's also 2 seats whose terms expire, mine and Brittany's.
Right.
So there's room for 4 more, basically. If we had more people applying for it, then we have seats. We're not limited to the 2 that expire, basically. It would be nice to get more people on.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that what Janice determined that the Marnie's term is really up.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
That for the Danby rep to the Recreation Partnership?
Yeah.
They changed it to a 1-year term, as far as I know.
Did they?
No, I thought it was the other way around, but
Well, we can double check.
Yeah, we could check that out.
Used to be 2 years.
I thought they changed it to 5 this last time.
It wasn't 5, I thought it was 3.
Well, 3 is the Youth Services Board.
Youth Services Board, though, Youth Commission.
It was very confusing.
I know, it is confusing
too.
That's 3 years.
Youth Commission?
No, not the
Youth Services.
Oh, Youth Services Board.
Yeah.
That's 3 years?
That's what, yeah.
It's not up this year. But the Youth Commission, is confusion reigns here with regard to whose terms up and how many positions there are filled.
What's the confusion?
How many years it got changed to?
Well, I don't know. I kept a record of when it got changed, because some people got changed so that it would stagger.
Right.
Right?
That's
supposed
the
to work
right.
that way.
We're not talking about the youth commission.
What are you talking about?
The rec.
No,
I thought we were talking about the rec partnership.
well, we did that.
Oh, we skipped over it. Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
We'll double check, but I think Marnie thinks it's 1 year too. I mean, I don't.
Okay.
We can check with her.
Yeah. Sure.
Half of them should be when your first time out of the gate, which this was.
You're talking now about the Youth Commission.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So there should be half the group with expiring terms, not everybody.
Right, I've got 3 people. There's more on me. Yeah, that's not everybody.
No, it's not. But Janice's record seems to be at odds with yours.
Well, I don't know. As soon as the meeting happens where things got changed, I changed my chart.
Yeah.
Well,
So I have Vera, Alexis,
they're
and
no
Madeline.
longer,
Vera's no longer doing it?
no,
So
she
we-
aged out.
Okay. Didn't know that.
So wait, of course, was it this year or last year that she aged out?
Well, her term is
This
up
year
this
she's done. She
Okay.
finished this year.
Okay.
She's done
She's
in
not going to
December.
do it in the next year.
Okay, so she's still here.
No, she actually resigned because of her age, and she left in the middle of a term
Okay.
or a few months ago.
Seems like if you age out in the middle of your term, you get to stay until the end of your term.
If they go
Okay.
off to college and
Okay.
they want to do something different,
Oh,
then it's okay to
So
resign.
is Alexis gone?
She resigned some time ago. Yeah,
We just need to get people to write letters and
well,
pass them around.
Yes, we have a record.
Yeah, so actually in the future,
That's
because
fine.
I have the 2022 roster from Jamie, and that's where some of this confusion is, because the 2022 roster had several people listed as a 2-year term, and those people that had a 2-year term that should have been through the end of this year were already appointed for a 2-year term in January. So there was some confusion about who, when, what. I haven't received any resignation from Veri or Alexis. So that does need to be submitted to the clerk's office.
Yeah,
So then I
Or to be a
have
vote.
just Madeline who's expired.
yeah. That's left over, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then that means there's only 5 members
Who are not resigned.
who
are
no,
running
total
on
5 members.
Current.
I mean,
altogether.
and we can have 15.
Right.
So
we can have,
we have-
it would be great if we had more people.
Yeah.
The bottom line is, yes, and we have a potential in the audience with us, right? Please come to a meeting. You have to do the application on the town website. Yeah.
Okay. Right.
Alrighty. Sounds good.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, since I just said that, anybody who wants to apply to any board can do it on the town website.
Right. So that's the status of things that need to be dealt with this January, essentially. Being an election year, we probably would want to wait until January. We're supposed to wait till January to make appointments anyway. For terms that are ending, we could fill vacancies if there were people who wanted to, but
Right.
it could have happened when they resigned, because we didn't have anybody waiting in the wings to
Right.
jump on. Right.
Well, the youth commission can take somebody if we get an application.
Yeah.
We can just take
Take
somebody.
them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but they need to be appointed.
Right, so they have to apply and then we can,
Good
in the
morning.
next meeting, we can appoint them.
Right.
It doesn't have to wait till,
That was what I was trying to say.
yes.
Minutes. Want to deal with any of them?
No.
No.
No, I didn't have a chance to look at anything. We weren't
You skipped the reports, actually.
Say again?
You skipped
Not me.
reports and presentations.
Reports
I'm
and
saying-
presentations.
Right, Steve is in writing.
Please forgot me.
Didn't we skip August? We deferred it?
He gave us 2.
No, no, I'm talking about.
He gave us 2.
Yeah, Steve did, but I think we skipped Janice's too, didn't we? I
I
missed
don't,
it. Did you give us an August one? I couldn't.
I'm pretty sure I did.
I'm pretty sure.
Okay,
so,
I must
yeah.
be misremembering. I
There
thought
was one, but I skipped the first meeting, and then I think I had to present it at the second meeting, but I'm pretty sure I presented it at the second meeting.
Hey, that's probably what I'm remembering.
Yeah.
Anyway, I did like it. Looked fine to me. Robinson. Okay, good. And we have Steve's for August and September. Looks like he didn't miss a beat because of medical issue.
I do have just one little question. It's not, this isn't any kind of anything. I'm just curious why the clerk's report on the web was so faint, and then when I printed it, it did the same thing. Do you know what happened with that, Janice?
Oh,
Are you talking about the lines that have zero money collected?
so the faint,
it's
faint lines are where
is that
you
what
didn't
that
have any
means?
collections, right?
Okay,
Yeah. That's
so the heading is also faint, but now I understand what you're saying. Okay,
those are the categories, but not all of them had action.
right. So you have to look for the category to see that there's no F. Got it.
Okay, good.
I just was wondering whether that is kind of strange. Got it.
Right. On to the warrants. Cool.
I move the general fund vouchers 306 to 320 for what I think is $12,766.54. Yep. Second.
Discussion? Good. Yes.
Okay. Sorry, 1 second. Connors.
Yes.
Hunter.
Yes.
Woodworth.
Yes.
Kenyon.
Yeah.
I'll move the highway fund vouchers 203 to 205 for $3,697.72. Second.
Big month for highway.
Yeah.
Wait till next month. Yeah. Ready?
Connors.
Okay, Dan.
Yes.
Hunter.
Yes.
Woodworth.
Yes.
Kenyon.
Yes.
I'll move the water on district voucher 30 for $70.
Only one.
Second.
Question about that? Okay.
Connors.
Yes.
Hunter.
Yep.
Woodworth.
Yes.
Kenyon.
Yes. Okay. First item of business. We do, as somebody pointed out, it was Ted, routinely tax cap override law. It gives us the flexibility to exceed the cap if we need to. The tentative budget as currently submitted is $600 under the cap. But by the time we get through fussing with it, it might be a little bit over. And it gives us the room to do it if we need to. So I move we schedule a public hearing.
I'll second that.
Or, see, we could have it at our next meeting.
Yeah.
There's time for notice, right?
Time?
Which the what? On the calendar. What's the second meeting?
2 weeks from now.
Oh no, it's 3 Wednesdays from now. It needs to be fixed in years, by the way.
I tell you,
I don't know, I keep forgetting the calendar. Maybe.
What do we need? 7 days, 9 days?
There's more than, it's more than that.
It's enough.
No, I'm wondering how many days we actually need.
I think it's 5 days notice, but it takes 7 days to get it, to do it appropriately.
Okay.
You got 2 days before you publish it.
the 18th. You said Wednesday. Wednesday the 18th.
Wednesday the 18th. Wednesday the 18th of October at 6 p.m. Anybody second that? You did.
Connor second.
Yeah.
Connor's moved it.
No,
No,
you
you
moved
you
it.
moved
I
it.
moved it.
Connor seconded.
Okay, yes.
Move
Ready for the
second
vote?
now. Yeah.
Yes.
Connors.
Yes.
Hunter.
Yes.
Woodworth,
Yes,
Gagnon.
Yes. The AOT annual meeting is in February, but the early registration period ends October 31st. And that's before the election. We don't know who's going to be on the board and might want to go until after the election. I was going to call them and ask them how they dealt with that, whether we sort of do placeholders or whether to cancel or add. And I didn't.
I think we should be able to, I think we could do a placeholder. If somebody gets sick, you send somebody else. I mean,
Yeah.
have we paid our dues yet?
Yes.
Dues are not due until January.
We'll have to pay the dues for next year. They won't let us vote.
Yeah. So,
What?
it looks like, I mean, no, in years past, when the trainings were held upstate, it looks like the trainings are in conjunction with the annual meeting, doesn't it? Or
It's the same gathering.
Yeah, well, if you're a new board member or clerk, having a training in February for a position that you start in January is kind of.
Well, yeah, I mean, I assume any new people would take the regular, offered. They usually do it in Albany or somewhere,
Rochester.
Syracuse, Rochester. So I mean, but this isn't really like for first, it's not necessarily for beginning training. It's different topics and
yeah. I looked at the agenda and it looked like it was first training. Did you look at it, Janice?
I did not look at it, but I believe that they have a new elected official training in January, which is always fun for the clerk because that's right during tax season when you're trying to get a handle on what the heck you're doing for taxes. And then you have to.
Right. Okay. But now the annual training is different. It's different.
Okay. Yep. So with that in mind.
So there's a new one for newbies in January, and then the regular one is in whenever their meeting is.
Yeah. Wouldn't you think that for newly elected they'd have it in like December? So they would be up.
But you don't know if they're going to be well, yeah, you would by then, wouldn't you?
After the election,
Yeah, you would.
If they were to be sworn in.
No.
Yeah.
I'm just question, why do you wait until after the job begins?
We can't swear them in until January, so they're not officially until sworn in.
Well, maybe not, but they could, they're already in line for the job, so to speak. Anyway.
It's probably picked because it's a month where there aren't many important holidays and people go to the training and go to the shows and stuff.
Right. So with that in mind, who wants to go to New York? No, not I. You have sometimes gone in the past.
I went for years. I mean, I wouldn't mind going. I'd go if I'm around.
Yeah, Sarah went when she was with us.
Yeah, she went with me. That was the year COVID hit. Sarah and I went to New York, and when we got back, it was like,
yeah. Grand
Central Station. We had been in there, and it was supposedly a spreading incident in Grand Central Station. Yeah. But anyway.
So I mean, we could take advantage of the early registration, and hope that you aren't in office in January. Somebody
else can go. Yeah. All right.
Can we do that? One.
Yeah. The money left over in the budget for this year training.
I don't know why I put vacancies still here, but we already dealt with it. The agricultural district issue, I had further clarification on that. The public notice that Janice posted on the webpage was for landowners to comment, not for the official process for the involving the towns and so forth. So we will be we'll be given an opportunity to engage more specifically on this issue if we wanted.
It did say, it didn't just, it said municipalities.
Yeah, that's what, I mean, it's confusing, because I got, Crystal responded to Greg, that inquired specifically about this.
Right.
And in her response, she said that this is only the first stage.
Okay,
and
so then
more.
The residents will give, the landowners can give feedback, and then they decide which ones they're suggesting. Is it going to be just like the last time? They'll decide which lots they would like to get out or put in, and then that's the information we get. That's what happened.
Is that what happened last time?
Yeah, because they were wanting to, they had, all of Van de Bogart's property going out of the ag district and stuff, I remember that. Yeah.
I don't remember that.
Well, we asked them to leave it in.
Yeah.
I remember some of it too, but I want to see that list.
Oh,
we get it.
Yeah.
Well, what they give us is a list of all the properties in the district.
No, it's not.
It's not functional that way. It's just too hard. I mean, I have the one from the last time. It was great because it listed, this one goes by lot size, and it doesn't list the owner.
Well, and the reason going by lot size, the presumption was that the smaller ones would be more apt to be.
Well, I don't agree with that.
I don't either.
Not agricultural, but
there's lots of different kinds of agriculture.
Sure, here it is.
And a lot of those lots that I looked at on the sheets, I couldn't really get a lot of information off the sheets the way they're organized, but a lot of them are contiguous. People own like 4 small lots that are together. They're 100 acres.
Yeah.
So.
So did you say that after they make modifications after the landowner's feedback?
Well, last time they gave us their suggestions, like which lots they want to take out of ag district or which they'd want to add.
Oh, okay.
And then we reacted to that. But we had a chart that listed the landowners, and it sort of went in order, down a road.
So we should get something different coming through after the landowners give their feedback.
So.
Then we should wait until we get that.
Hope so.
Yeah, and of course the question is whether we want
Nice.
we want to weigh in with suggestions for properties to delete. That's what this is about.
But I can't tell from looking. It would take me hours to figure out who owns what, and we own 2 properties, the lot, but one's smaller than the other. So they're on, 4 pages away from each other. And maybe the lots together are worth saving, in the ag district. So
that makes a difference. Yeah.
I don't want to look at it the way it is now.
So we need to get different data before we spend time.
Right.
So we'll wait until next meeting then.
Well, when do you know when they're gonna, we don't know when they're gonna do it.
So
they have until the 10th of October.
Well, we have evidently more than the 10th of October.
Yeah. What do you mean?
Well, that what Crystal indicated was that the 10th of October is the deadline for landowners to essentially request that they be deleted.
Right.
If they're in.
But they could also ask if they're not in to be added in.
Yeah, I think that's right. But they could do that annually.
Yeah.
But I guess they could do it as part of this review as well.
Makes sense.
And then we get to review it after that.
Anyway.
Yeah, and
well, that's what we want to do. We want to wait for that to review it.
We need to find out.
There's no sense in taking us suggesting something go out if the landowner wants it already out. We want to wait till we get the landowner's input first.
That's true. Well, as one of the landowners who's got property in the district, I was never contacted to be asked whether I wanted out or not. So I'm not sure how the process unfolds, but it's not that they contacted.
I don't have that sheet that says landowners and municipalities have until October 10th.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're on that list.
You saw it?
I've got, the north side of Station Road is in the district, including all the houses that are on it. And I own like 3 pieces of property that are like 1.15 acres, the other is like 3/10 of an acre, 4/10 of an acre, and they're in the ag district. I'm not sure why they ever were in the ag district, but they are. And you know, a lot of the hamlets in the ag district. And it's not that we don't conduct agricultural activities in the hamlet. We do. You know, I'm doing it in my property, which isn't in the district for some reason.
Right.
On the side of the street.
Right.
So I guess it's worth reminding ourselves why one might want properties not in the district. And I had to think about it because we didn't really remember what's the impetus for removing properties from the ag district. And the main one, to my knowledge, is that in the event that you're conducting agricultural activity that might be otherwise regulated, the ag and markets will defend legitimate agricultural use in the district. We have, though, in a local right to engage in agricultural activity law, which was specifically designed to protect smallholders who aren't doing commercial scale agriculture, and basically tells people, you know, this is what you expect in a small town.
Right, but they don't have the backing. They don't have the
backing of ag
markets.
Right, exactly.
They don't have the backing of anybody.
Well, and the other thing you could say is that, of course, we're not in that position, but we don't regulate agriculture in any of our districts, specifically saying, you know, that you can't do this, except for the fact that there's a stigma, you know, capos aren't welcome in Danby. I don't think that we could prohibit them even if they were outside the ag district, because it's not in our zoning. It's in the right to engage in agricultural activity law that capos aren't welcome,
right? But
we can't regulate them out. So I don't see the great virtue, frankly, in deleting properties in the ag district.
I don't either.
Yeah, I mean, I think when we went through it last time, we did, you know, if there were really tiny lots and there were, you know, 4 houses together and they were half an acre, you know, it is kind of silly to have them in the ag district. But I don't, you know, maybe they do, you know, small.
Yeah.
Maybe they have a tractor they like to ride around on, and that would be protected, the use of some kind of equipment.
I'm going to ask Ted to comment, because he more than anyone has been an advocate, well, him and Rhonda, frankly, for why one should delete properties from the ag district. So Ted, if you'd like to remind us of what the main argument is.
Sure. Actually, you said that you hadn't been notified, and I'm also in that district, and I was notified in a very sort of backhanded sort of way. A survey was sent out from Cooperative Extension asking about my views of agricultural district, and there was a cover letter, and they even distributed this flyer, but it wasn't clear that they were announcing in the review. They did send the material, but it just wasn't obvious. You, Joel, just now mentioned that you have some, pardon me, tiny little properties there in the ag district. So obviously the problem that existed 4 years ago in District 1 also exists to some extent in District 2. And as to the reasons why this could be a problem, I hope I'm not overreaching when I point out 2 cases that came up in recent years. Had the hemp dryer on Howland Road been in an agricultural district, the town would have had a little bit more difficulty getting it silenced. I think that was the issue, the noise of it. And second, you might remember the potential of a farm winery opening I guess they were calling it a tasting room, but it amounted to a restaurant, which was intended to host events, an event venue, which was not in an ag district. And the town actually recommended against its inclusion. That was, I don't remember how many years ago, not too far back. And the reason there is that while it wasn't in a residential district, it was in a sub-residential district. You probably remember the details as well as I do. And there is always the possibility that a commercial venue will show up in the middle of what is a residential district. And that's what I see as the real danger. I'm all in favor of ag districts when they're being used for agriculture in areas that do not impact residential neighborhoods. Hey, I own the farm out here, you know. I understand.
But at that last review at the very end, the Helen Road property and the cidery on 96B both wanted to be included in the ag district. And we strongly said no to the Howland Road and supported the cidery business, and I think they got added and they didn't.
Yeah. That sounds right to me, but had they been in the ag district to start with, you might have had a little bit more difficulty.
Yeah, right. So anyway, it's a fair amount of effort to either on our part or Greg's part to identify potential, because David worked to identify potentially, you know, properties that might reasonably be deleted, and then we reviewed it, and you in particular looked at it.
I went through every lot. I don't mind. I like that. That's fun.
Yeah. We could do that again if we think
I want to do that again.
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah.
Okay, then I can instruct Greg accordingly.
Yeah.
Well, he's already.
I mean, it could be. It could be. You know.
Well, he responded to.
It could be 8 months down the road.
Request for information, but that,
right.
You know,
they gave him the worth. You
know. Wasn't the right. I know.
Well, it was just you can't do anything with it, really.
But I mean, if he's going to facilitate our suggestion, then essentially a decision will have been made that it is desirable to delete some properties, and then the charge is to identify properties that would be potentially worthwhile deleting.
Yeah,
and then we'll review it.
And if things have changed, I could see a lot wanting to be added. You know, if activity has changed, and I know they can do it anytime.
Yeah, there can't be too many to add because most of
I don't know. There could be 1 or 2.
I can think of one too.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah,
but I don't know. That's the problem because you can't see.
Yeah, I know the map is not very helpful.
The map is not helpful. I remember when we went through this with the zoning, you cannot tell a lot of it with just a color.
Yeah,
and it's not very accurate.
Oh, so when we had the maps and stuff with David, I mean, you could every lot you could tell where they were and who
well, that's the kind of specificity
beautiful. Yeah,
right.
And Greg's got access to the maps better than we do. Okay, on to the budget. So it might be good to have an overview, if you will, of the budget, sort of Cook's tour of the tentative budget by Laura. You know, I worked together on this. Of course, she did the lion's share of the work putting it together.
You want to sit down at the table and put your paper on it? It would be easier for them to see you as well.
There's a chair.
You work it right off if you want.
Yeah.
This falls. How about if it came down this far and I pulled up like?
Well, I mean, you might want to. You want to be closer, or they won't be able to see you.
That's fine.
Fine. They can't see her.
Yeah.
I suppose. No.
You want me to come up closer?
If she's there, you're right on the edge.
Is this working? I mean, can you hear me okay?
That works.
Is that better?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Okay. So what you're looking for then is just kind of an overview of this tentative budget that was submitted from Joel to the town clerk to be looked at through our workshops and kind of torn apart and something for you all to look at. And I can tell you that. And I put in, for anybody who would like another copy of the budget, there's some more copies up here. There's a little write-up sheet at the beginning that sort of explains, you know, what this budget represents. This tentative budget is under the tax cap by $608. Okay. There are some amounts taken from the fund balance in here as we were talking about this and some of the questions that came up during privilege of the floor. So a few of the expenditures that we had budgeted for last year that we didn't use, we didn't hit, follow through, like opening the pond, the amount for the court, for their security that they had. So there was also an amount that was set aside, $7,000 that had been set aside last year for planner to use for grant matching. Okay, that was not used. So those are items that we put back into the budget because these are projects that are ongoing or making decisions to stay with certain programs. And we put them in there in the line item, but we took them out of the fund balance. So in other words, we didn't come up with they're not an expenditure where we're gonna go out and ask money from the public to fund those items again. Okay.
And on that subject, I might add that the Laura projected to that additions to the fund balance at the end of the year would be in the ballpark of what we're appropriating from the fund balance. So that the balance of the fund balance, if you will, at the end with this, if the budget were enacted this way, we wouldn't be depleting the fund balance year over year. We pretty much zeroed out.
That's correct. And to add to that, Joel, if we take a look at what happened in 2022, so the end of 2022, you'll see on this, and it explains it. We were able to add $167,000 to the fund balance in the general fund and just over $8,000 in the highway fund. We've done a lot of work in highway, but in the general fund is where we're affecting the fund balance for the programs that we're talking about. And there's also something else that we're using fund balance for is I know that it has been talked about adding a new position in the town or contract, if it's not a new position with a salary, even contracting it with another individual to do things like write the newsletter, somebody to take over some of the website projects. And in this budget is $20,000 for a new line item for that. So that's also included in this, and we're still able to stay under the tax cap. So, yep, I talked about the new position. This budget represents a 3.036% increase in the tax levy. Okay, that's a bit of information. And what's happening here is that the increases, we're raising the tax levy. Okay, there's an analysis here, so we can see that the tax levy is increasing by $70,567. So $70,567. So it's a 3.036% increase in the levy. So even though the levy is increasing, some people's taxes will actually be going down. And the reason for that is if we look at the assessments for the year, and that's what we have to look at, the assessments did go up. They went up in the general, but they didn't go up as much as they went up last year when we were working with this.
But they're still going up.
But they're still going up. So they increased by $34.2 million this year in the general fund. And they increased in the general and highway, I say general and highway funds, but it's 34. And then any, in the fire district, they went up 32.8 million. In the water district, 1.3, close to 1.3. Okay. So the reason that they're lower in the fire district is there's certain adjustments to the taxes that are not allowed in the fire district within the fire district assessments, but they are in the other assessment for taxes. Exclusions, what is the word I'm looking for? Exclusions like the senior exemptions is what I'm looking for. There's certain exemptions that are allowed, but they're not allowed in through there. So when we're figuring out the tax rate, those are the assessments that we're using. So the fact that they went down, and even though we increased the levy, you can see with this, if you look at the tax rate analysis, it's like the third page in the tax rate analysis. If this budget were to be passed the way that it is, and I know that you'll look it over and go through and, you know, try to, you know, look at different line items and see what's happening. But at the end of the process, if this was passed as is, for every $100,000 of assessed value, the tax bill would decrease by $31.40 for what you're looking at. In the water department, anybody who's in the water district, their taxes would decrease by $78.20. And that's because there's been a shift, and Joel can speak to that. Well, there's been a shift in the amount of revenue and the percentage of revenue that is coming in through metered water sales and through the taxes. And that's something that the water district had many, many meetings on and really had decided to take in revenue in that way. So that's why that would increase tax-wise.
And in fact, I'd like us to focus on the water district portion of the budget tonight, if you can, because the meter read is long about now, and the new rates will go into effect immediately. The first bill for it is in January, but if we're going to modify the budget in any way, it might change a letter that's going to the district members along with their water bill saying, here's what's happening effective right away. So if we're okay with it, then you know, there's no problem. But if we were to say we were not on board with the idea of implementing the 80-20, what the target was, 80% usage, 20% taxes, and then we adjusted the budget to get there, you know, which meant more than doubling the rate of the water from 46 cents per 100 gallons to $1.16. It's still, it's like 1.16 cents per gallon. Enough sense to me.
Yeah.
It puts us in the same. We're in the same ballpark as the other water district. And create something more of an incentive for people to conserve.
Yeah.
It's quite a jump though from where we were, and we stayed at the same rate for 40 years. To the point where, before we started adjusting, the budget had gotten to the point where it was 80% taxes and 20% usage.
Yeah. Yeah. So to break that down and like to mention the highway, I believe the highway, and this is all including the highway, everything I've set up to this point, other than some of the general fund items. The highway department is proposed, you know, has put in this budget that was submitted to the clerk using $15,000 of the fund balance and asking for an increase in the budget of $19,000. So, I mean, it's a matter of just kind of going down through the line items, you know, seeing where some of the increases. I can tell you that there was a 3% increase in salaries. Right. This budget reflects 3%. That came in through the union. There's also in here an 8% increase in health insurance, but also another 1% increase in the amount of employee share. So that's all been figured into these calculations. I thought that was really good when we got done with adding all of these things and having and going down through the budget, just responsibly really looking at these numbers, and also having it in mind. I know Joel's had it in mind, you know, hey, that tax cap is important, and it's important because he wanted to stay under it. That's what he's kind of looking to do, is to stay under that tax cap if that's the responsible thing to do. So we went down through, we calculated, and by gosh, we were $600 under the tax cap.
We didn't know that when we put it together.
We did not know that. We put the whole thing together.
We could fix that.
And did not know what that number was going to be. And then it came up and it was a pleasant surprise.
Yeah. It's like, you know, we might be in the ballpark here.
And sure enough, it was. Sure enough, it was. So that's kind of a rundown of what this version is showing.
Could you, I'm sure you've got this somewhere in your.
I sure can.
Could you get an updated, this thing was so useful to me.
What was the title of that?
It just says, well, there really isn't a title. I could make a copy of it and give it to you.
That would be great.
What is it?
But I know
it's just it's a listing of tax amount for 100,000 of assessed value with comparisons of levy increase, tax cap analysis, and fund balance increase. More, a little more detail on the fund balance and the increase or decrease in the amount of assessment each year. It just was nice. It was helpful for me to look at where we've been.
Not a problem. I can put that together for the next meeting, or I can send that out on the email so that you can have it. And that's going to do some of the information. That's also going to do what that spreadsheet I gave you, Joel.
Yeah, right.
That is just tracking that increase and decrease in the fund balance. I know when we were talking about when we were back in 2022, when I did or 2021.
Yeah.
Okay. And then when we're adding 2022s, it was like over a period of 10 to 15 years, the only amount in total with the fund balance going up and down that we actually used fund balance out of was around $175,000 within all those years as you're taking pluses and minuses and you're going through that. Now keep in mind in 2022, we added another 165 to it. So if you're looking at it, some years it goes up, some years it goes down, depending on what the activity is in the town. But if you take a look at everything in whole, the town's been very good at being able to be responsible with spending and be responsible with planning, basically.
Yeah, and having a reasonable fund balance to account for unexpected.
Yeah. Having the security that the town really needs to have, without cutting things so short, that there's worries. And I know in a lot of municipalities, we hear that too, where things are pretty short. But the town of Danby has been able to keep their buffer to secure the things going on for the town.
Did anybody else have anything? I mean, I had a couple things I wanted to ask about.
Sure. Great.
I don't know.
I asked my questions already.
I don't know how anybody else feels about no increase in the town board salaries. But I'd be willing to support that again. I mean, it just pays for gas to get down here anyway. And we start walking.
Yeah, paper, printers.
I know. Paper. But I mean, I'm thinking also it could be, I would be interested in considering no increase in the town board salaries and to add that to the newsletter website person. Let's see. What else did I have?
Not a change I would support.
Well, and the other, I don't know.
I forget who it was in the city when the common council discussed the issue of what the compensation should be, decided to increase it substantially. The argument was, and I think it applies to us as much as any place else, that the more you make it an honorarium and less a real compensation for the amount of time it takes, the less people who are not independently wealthy can afford to do it. We're asking people who would like to get younger people involved and so forth, but they can't afford to forego the income that they would otherwise be generating in the time. If it's a meaningful sideline income, then you could be more apt to get people interested in doing it.
argument.
No. I think I would favor not having the salary increase. And the choice of where it goes, initially, it would make sense to just leave it in the increasing the amount we're under the tax cap, increasing the amount we're under the tax cap. There's also, and I don't know who it's going to be if you can, you know, if you're around and we're around, I mean, that's, you know, it's an issue that's hard to know who we're doing this for, but, and I don't know if you'd want to, you know, give somebody else the deputy supervisor title, but that's, you know, that's another chunk that, we gave up last year, and I'd be interested in giving it up again. Yeah, I would agree.
I think it deserves compensation for that.
Well, I think, you know, it's not a lot of money, but it, you know, it is more than it used to be.
Yeah.
But those are options.
It's a nod in a direction of, you know, increased effort.
Yeah.
Willingness to serve.
Yeah. Which I think most people would anyway, without. Maybe not.
Maybe, it depends on
maybe not. In terms of a serious nod, there's not enough money in there to make it a serious nod. Like $3,000. Yeah. I mean, it used to be like $74. And it wasn't that long ago either. So what the solar array, is that what have we?
Well, we didn't put anything in, but you know, I was talking to Laura about this. That might be good use for ARPA money. We need to check and see whether or not we could actually buy it in the time period rather
and we needed to also check to see whether we wanted to buy it anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
So I think we didn't put it, you know, Joel and I were talking about it, and Joel had said, I think we shouldn't put that in right now till we have a little bit more information. Yeah. And I know we were going to talk with Paul, so we can get together with Paul because he was in on that project right from the beginning. So revisiting that and the thoughts now of what this board thinks and what people think about actually acquiring that. And I know when we were looking through, there were other time limits and things that could be extended out, which might be something you might want to think about too.
There were multiple options.
Yeah, multiple options. And to not put it in there. And then when Joel, another thing they did is with the ARPA funds, they just opened up other categories now. So every year they're opening up a little bit more and a little bit more you can use that for. So we want to look into that. And if they will allow it, that might be something to consider, as Joel had brought up, using those ARPA funds to accomplish that. So that's to come. Maybe the next meeting or whatever we can do to come up with more information on that.
Okay. That would have made a difference if we were committed to raising that money for taxes. We ought to be saving up for it.
Right.
Unless we want to opt for one of the options, I think it's to renew the lease for another period of time. But it was when it was. As I recall, it was regarded as a really good deal that we, you know, right. Considering what it was with upfront cost for you know what we could get it for at the end of the lease period was wow, we could own this, and then the production of the hours we
right. And what's that total? 1,100,000.
I think it's under 100,000. It's under 100,000.
I don't remember that. Yes, it's under 100,000, and some money has been saved.
Some money has been saved towards it. And when we first started the project, right, it was talked about that they were going to take maybe 40 or 50,000 out of the fund balance, right, simply because of what's happened. Like last year, we had years when we were increasing our fund balance. I mean, we've had some where we were decreasing, but things have kind of picked back up with that as we've gotten different projects done and had certain things happen. So taking a lump sum out of there and kind of looking at that and putting it into, but the thing about it is when you put it into a reserve, I mean, I would say set it aside, but don't put it in the reserve, because if you identify it,
but don't put it in the reserve. So don't,
yes.
You know, the guidance from the controller's office is there should be a fund balance policy.
Yeah.
And pursuant to that policy, you say, well, what we have in mind using this money for, and we're saving up for it, whatever.
But it's not designated.
But it's not designated. When you put it in a
So in other words, if
account, you can only use it for that which is designated.
That's right. And then there's a whole procedure that you really have to go through to get it back out of there. If all of a sudden you've changed your mind, that's not what you want with the project.
Okay.
Right.
But my recollection was that it was probably more than half the cost was already put aside, my recollection.
Yeah, I think we have maybe 25 or 30. I can come up with that number for you.
That's what I thought.
That we already have put aside.
Right.
We also have from in this year's budget, I believe it's 10,000, another 10,000 in 2023 that went into it, that are going into it, that's set aside for part of it.
Yeah.
Right, 2023s as opposed to 2024s. So that's increasing it as well. We'll put you on that number so you can see how far along we are. But once again, it's budgetary provisions for other uses. Yes, we do have it sitting in a reserve, but
not for that purpose.
But well, we do actually have a solar reserve.
Right.
Okay. But I've got to look back into our records to see if we actually formally set that reserve up. I'm trying to remember. And Paul will remember that too, as we're looking through that. So we do have it, but we can leave there what we have and just start setting some aside in another way if we're not sure what we're really going to do as far as purchasing it.
Yeah, and certainly at the beginning, both in terms of more cost effective for the town analysis, the beginning analysis, and the fact that they don't die right away, so we wouldn't buy it and then have them go away. But we can confirm that that's what Paul and I and Laura are going to get together and work on that before the next meeting.
Okay.
Yes.
The beans.
I can tell you the way that it's going though with the credits. Everybody's sharing in some pretty good credits. The water district has them. The fire district has had a lot of credits, you know, that have reduced their costs. We have had that here too. We've included all the investment payments that we make. They're included in the calculation, knowing that the town's making those. So our share of credits is a generous portion. So
for a while, it was it's built into the contract what the increase is going to be over time, and for a while it wasn't much percentage, so to speak. I mean, it costed as much as if you didn't have the rate. Right. But now electric rates have gone up so much that it's a substantial benefit within the rate schedule.
It's been a successful project so far. As far as everybody enjoying, and then the collaboration between all the departments and everything.
The fire district, is that?
It's for real this time that they didn't ask for an increase.
I know.
We're laughing down.
There's something wrong with that.
They're not done yet.
There was something.
They're not done?
They're not done with their budget, but that doesn't affect our budget in any way. Okay, that's any of the figures we're talking about. That does not affect any of our numbers that we're dealing with. They have their own tax cap, and they're a fire district, so everything they do is on their own. Whereas our water district is part of our budget that we're dealing with here. Fire district is completely different. They have their own tax cap. Their figures are figured into that, and the amount that we give them is not part of our tax cap calculation.
Okay.
But I believe they're voting on their budget or they're going to set up a public hearing at least this week. So that figure will be coming. And when that happens, you know, we'll adjust our summary reports and our analysis reports, but it's not going to affect the figures that you make your decisions on.
Okay.
Pass through, basically.
Yes.
Right.
But we have to get it right, though.
Yes.
Because what we submit is what they get.
That's right. We want to make, that's correct. Yes.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
What, to get it right?
Yeah.
Yes.
We wait now for that signed document.
Okay.
As opposed to a word of mouth thing.
Mm-hmm.
I want to thank you for all the work that you've done.
Yes.
Oh my goodness, you're welcome. My pleasure. And Joel. One thing that Joel's thoughts and Joel's stuff. And my pleasure. I enjoy it.
I was pushing her to try to get it done in time to get it to the board for the weekend.
Yeah.
She was up till 3 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning.
6 o'clock in the morning.
Try to get it done.
But that's okay. You know, you get on a roll and you're thinking and you're going through things and you just stay with it. You just, right, you just stay with it. And nice and quiet that time of day.
Yeah, I know.
Yes.
Nice and quiet.
Yeah, I used to do that in school.
Yeah.
There's nobody's phone doesn't ring.
Yes.
I could do my work in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
I do have one question about the solar array, and I probably should know, but it's just a curiosity because the panels they have a lifespan.
Yeah.
So what happens if, if we own it outright, do we have any options for doing something about their lifespan? I mean, like now there's some talk about
panels.
panels.
You do life extending things to it.
Right. Well, sometimes there's some thought about removing some core parts, and then they can be replaced, or they take that out and it takes away the inefficiency. It's a little complicated, but I don't know what.
And those are all things to consider. So if you guys are making your decision of whether you're going to go through with the purchasing of it, because as soon as that happens, all your maintenance and everything is now on the town.
That's what I was thinking.
The town is responsible for all the maintenance, all the maintenance, all the coordination.
Paul and I were looking at with me, Laura. Exactly that.
Yeah. Right now, anything happens, and I believe it's Sunvestment that has to do the maintenance.
Yeah.
And like, say for instance, we go offline somehow. They see it, they're monitoring it through their company. And they're right out here. They have somebody right out here. It's gone offline for some reason.
Has it happened a lot? How often?
Not a lot. I mean, it did at first, they had a few little glitches here and there, but very seldom.
Yeah.
Does that happen? But that could happen even through different things with weather. It could happen with ground movement. I mean, there's a lot of different things that make it happen. Or even with something with our electric system,
right? Because
of the routers and stuff plugged in, and they're all located at Highway. So they're responsible for all of that now. Once we buy it and we have it, now we are responsible for all of our own maintenance on the system, which has to be weighed out.
Yeah, well, what we should look at is what it would cost us to have contract out for service contract. Somebody is being
or even them if they have it, or even if they have one, a service contract. They know they
maybe they have something that
could be because
extended
because the Sun doesn't the one to put the system in.
Right.
And I know that I'm not sure whether they're actually doing the maintenance or whether they're again contracting with I think it was Renova to put in with
Yeah, I don't really totally know that relationship, but that's kind of the overview of things. Where do you guys want to go from here? Are there a few departments that you want to talk to? You want to look over the figures a little bit more? I can tell you some of the departments. The library had made contact. The libraries, what they asked for remain the same. The senior citizens asked for, and they have an explanation for that too. And I will email that out to all of you for you to be able to look at what their explanation is. They asked for $2,500 more, and that was to cover the cost of, just the increasing cost of the buses and because of fuel and the buses and the transportation part of things. So
because that's a 50% increase.
There's that. And then, I mean, the food pantry, we're going through the Southern Tier food bank now. That's $5,000, which that is up because before we always budgeted $4,500, but last year we contracted with them, so that's $5,000 for that. Any other departments had anything up in it? You can take a look at the amounts for the planner, the code enforcement, town clerk. One of the things I am going to do though before the next meeting is there are some line items. They're look at that. I turned right to it. It knew my mind. Information technology, they're account 1620.4. They're the contractual for the building, information technology, website and email maintenance. And you'll see in there 1620.43, the website and newsletter, you'll see I've got an abbreviation for contractual. it's not what what I really mean with contractual. Normally, all of our different line items. This is in case you want to contract with someone to do that. You might want to hire someone to do that. You might want to contract with someone to do that. So that's why that's in there. But I want to look at those.
I did wonder about the IT line because our contract with TCNS is more money than that.
Yeah, so I think
Where
what
is
it is, I think that's what I got to look at some of these figures for. We put them in the same. We budgeted for them very well last year, but I've got to look at where the actuals are actually coming out of. And so it's all in there, but we've just got to sort it out in its categories so that makes it clearer, you know, exactly what it is. And I do want to, see what those upcoming costs are for the next year, but there's an ample amount, I believe, in there to cover those items, and especially now with that 20,000 for the other part. But then there's website maintenance. There's some other different items, and that's what we've got to kind of research through there too. See if there's a difference here or there, and it may even be over budgeted by 1,000 or 2. Because there's some of it here that has not been used that we put in there, but we'll sort it out. And
not done yet, though.
That's right. We'll sort it out and we'll go through it.
I need that. I'd like to be, if you can help me with that.
Sure.
Do that, yeah.
We'll sort it out and get it much clearer.
Yeah.
Ted, you had a question?
2 things. I noticed in the budget that you do not have any figures included for the Community Park Association. So while you were discussing it, I emailed the president, and she's still waiting. Apparently, Joel, she sent you a note asking how to submit numbers. Never got a response. That was since your last meeting. So
that there is an amount in the tab for that. There is an Exhibit A in there under the a 1989 account 1989 under other government support. There is an Exhibit A. I don't know if it got sent electronically to you, but there is an amount in there.
It's at the end of the budget.
I'm looking at page 12, where it says contractual expense for Danby Community Park Association 0.
Hold on, just a moment.
1989.
No, I may have misspoke with that, Ted. Just a moment.
I saw it.
Yeah, there's an amount in there.
Other governments.
$74.50, $7,450. It's account number 7340.4.
Right. The point I'm trying to make is that the park is still waiting to learn how they can submit an actual budget request. That's an estimate based on this year's amount.
There's still plenty of time for getting the budget. I mean, this is definitely not the final one in any way at this point. So we will. Who's the person that we will reach out to for that, Ted?
Amanda Pia.
Amanda.
Yeah,
correct.
She's the chair of the board.
Okay.
Yeah, and the other thing I didn't
realize Ted, that this does not reflect an actual request.
Yes, that's correct. The other thing I wanted to mention, it's just an aside, when you're discussing solar panels, lifespan of a solar panel, it does not mean that it's worthless at the end of it. It still has a large fraction of its original capacity at the end of its lifespan. Its capacity decreases every year until it reaches the point where they call it end of life. So they're not worthless. Maintenance does become an issue, but one of the nice things about solar panels is that there's so many of them that fail. If they fail individually, it's degrading. It doesn't just go offline.
That is what I'm saying, but
yeah.
That's what I'm trying to understand and saying.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't know we were having an open conversation about these items.
Right. And for what it's worth, I've have my solar panels are just about the same age as yours. I have yet to have a panel fail. The microinverters have problems.
Yeah. It's a pretty slow degradation for quite a long time.
That's correct.
Now we need
That was my point. Thanks.
Do we want to do that with the big ones like the highway?
You can do that. We could do that, yeah. Would you'd like to talk to Keith and see, you know, what his thoughts are? He basically, you can look through his line items. There isn't anything that's really anything out of the ordinary. The amount is in there to pay those lease purchase agreements. That's it, all included in that. And then he just has things in his line items. And what we did with the salaries is we went through and took your 40-hour weeks with the employees and added 100 hours of overtime to each of them, because that can be a typical thing. You know, you were trying to look at worst case scenario, but still be conservative enough too. So we did tear it apart and went individual by individual as far as the increases, but the rest of it is pretty much straightforward, sort of the same that we have.
I didn't see much difference.
No, there's not a lot. There is not a lot of difference in there.
Now, my recollection was that last year, one of the impacts of the budgets is there was lots of new purchases in the highway. But I assume that's not the case now because we already did it.
Right, we did it. We have that.
Yeah, I'm not sure they can hear you. The Zoom audience can hear you when you're facing Laura and not your microphone.
We have a lease purchase agreement, which is similar to an installment purchase. Okay, so we're making those payments. And last year they got different pieces of equipment. They got a backhoe. You know, they're still last year, this in 2023 had decided to go with the loader program. Next year, you know, we're going to analyze it the same way. Analyze it. Is it really a cost savings, or do we want to hang on to it for another year? You know, how it can go. It will depend on the market. It's going to depend on, you know, what they're getting for old equipment, new equipment. Not that we want to purchase a piece of old equipment for our loader. That's our big priority piece of equipment that we need to survive with, you know, over there in the wintertime.
What can you get for it if we bought it?
That's right. What is the difference? And we weigh that out every year to make sure that that's worth it, and, you know, comes with new warranties, everything that we need to feel safe and secure and cozy and all that type of thing.
Yeah, I'm impressed with this year. The amount of new equipment that was received, that we got, that was very well priced. It was a great deal for the town on almost everything.
Oh, they were. And then the amount that they received at auction.
Yes.
And even with the loader program last year, we did something where we put our old loader up for auction. We got more for it in the auction than we would have gotten through the loader program. So we got the good amount. So we saved yet another $6,500 in doing it that way. So yeah, they're pretty good over there, Keith and Jack, at coming up with ways to find the good things and find ways. And it takes the extra effort, takes the extra time, but to look through it and to, you know, try to save the town as much as possible.
Jack is a good bargain hunter.
Oh, he is. Jack is a good bargain hunter.
So a question really is, from whom do we want to hear, if anybody? I mean, maybe you look at this and say, well, this is great, let's go with it, and then it's done. You know?
But we do, clearly the park wants to be.
Well, evidently the park has actually made a request. And what's plugged in here is just what, 3% increase over last year? Yeah, and do you have well, no, what's in there is basically what they had in there last year, because last year we gave them an increase as well. Right, we did, yeah. From 6,500 to 7,450 or something like that. There was some extra thing. So Ted, even though, I mean, I don't know, you hear then from the people from the park, you can always give them my email address too. Give them my email address and we'll also reach out to them. It's not like we were trying to exclude them or anything. I was under the impression at first when it was brought up too, and I knew that Pamela had some connection or whatever was happening. So sorry that fell through. We definitely want to hear from them. But yeah, sure, for sure, give them my email address as well.
And we heard.
And that's how they can submit something.
And we
right
did hear, we heard from the seniors. They told us we didn't.
Yes. Yes, and there is a write-up. I will send that to you. Why they were asking for 2,500 more.
Yeah, it costs a lot more to run the boat than you do.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it does.
Laura, could you quickly spell out your email address? I'm sending it right out.
Oh, sure. Thanks. L Shawley, which L-S-A-T, L Shawley at danby.ny.gov.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for making the contact.
Okay. So would you mind going to the water district budget and reviewing that and see whether there's anything that you think should be questioned or modified so that the committee, the committee scheduled to meet tomorrow. My phone's been dinging. We had to get like a Christmas tree. It's like, oh, we're meeting tomorrow. Yes, we're meeting 20. So I'm not sure what the upshot was, but they could still modify things because the bill hasn't gone out yet. But if we're good on it, I told them I would raise it, bring it to the board and review it so that we would have some clarity regarding whether we're on board with the.
Are you saying you are bringing something different than what we're looking at in the budget?
No,
we're looking at the budget.
I'm not bringing something different.
Okay, so it's in here.
Here's what the water district committee is proposing, and that I support as well.
What is the contractual?
Which one?
Under water district? Yeah.
There's some in every.
The second category under water administration.
There's water administration, then there's source of supply, power and pumping. So we have some different categories. Water administration.
Yeah. What's the contractual?
Okay, that's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
The water administration is we broke that out. It's not broken out here though. But that's what stamps and
stamps and the things that they need for the bill. Also the software support contracts for the software that they use. So those are contractual for that. There's source of supply with the power and pumping and transmission and distribution. Though in there are things like the electric bills that it costs to keep things going. Any additional supplies that they need for the pumps. There's also the mowing. So mowing around the pump house. So those are some of the types. And then there is another category, purification. So all the chlorine and everything that they're purchasing for that. There's also a lot of water testing. Yeah. They do, they buy things through Amrex for their chlorine, and there's something else they add to it too. And there's
well, the testing is a big one.
Yeah, and the testing is from Yaws, and they test all the time. So we always have, and then not just the regular $50, monthly tests. No. There's the other bigger tests too that the health department requires every year, and with a whole list of different things, and that can get expensive as well.
You have to just test it periodically, not very often.
Yep, I saw that asbestos.
Yeah, there was a big one that was recently mandated was checking for polyfluoroalkyl substances, PFAS. They want to know whether it's an issue, but water districts all over the state have to test that. It's an expensive test, and for a small district, it's a pretty large expense. So you had to test. You had two options for doing it. You could do it annually for 5 years, or you could do three up front and let you stretch it out for longer. We figured out what was the cheapest way to do it, and that's what we did. Yeah. But that was a pretty significant addition to the cost of testing for a small district. And then the other thing that there was increase was the repair budget.
Yeah,
I didn't really have anything specifically for repairs. We had one repair this year, and it was over $7,000. Because where the leak manifested, not where the leak was. We chased it for 600 feet to find it where it actually originated. It was pretty expensive to put it. Once you got it, it wasn't too bad, but you had to put all that back together. So that's happened. I mean, there were a couple of leaks last year, there was one this year. There was the unintended ones where they, as part of the culvert project, they punctured the found and punctured the pipe. At each culvert, same thing happened twice. But that's on them to pay for that.
That's good.
Yeah, but it was,
And there was leak detection services. There was like $1,000 bill for that.
Yeah, we did that last year.
Mm-hmm. Tank cleaning last year, the $6,000 that we budgeted for it.
Hope not to have to do it for a while yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not budgeted.
Right, that's why it's not in the budget.
Right.
Because it's good once every. The recommendation is 3 to 5 years. When we did it, because we thought, well, maybe it's 30, because it's a new tank, so it hadn't been done. We didn't really know how bad it would be. But it turned out that, and there were complaints about, the discolored water.
Right.
I said, well, maybe the sediment's building up, it's going down in the line. So we had it cleaned, and it really wasn't very much sediment in the tank. So the committee's comfortable going out 5 years before we do it again.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
And the state retirement? Zero budget?
And zero, because there isn't anybody there that is participating. Everybody's very part-time in all of the things that they're doing, and they're not participating.
And they did in the past when Carl was off,
Yes.
because he was
Well,
already
they'd also
Yes.
participate if they had other jobs that they were part of the system, right?
because Carl
They could if they did.
Otherwise, yeah.
We'll go and discuss that with them again. See if anything's changed in their other part of their life, where they might be in that. But where the big change is, take a look in the revenue sheet, the revenue for the water district. If you start at 2020, you can see that $55,500 was what was asked for in taxes. And you can see those amounts slowly coming down as they're changing the structure of their revenue. And in 2024, $10,389 from property taxes and $44,405 from meter water sales. So they changed that structure.
Right.
And we made a mistake last year. The revenue was, short, seriously short. That's why there was an appropriated fund balance making up the difference.
Right.
We had the money in the fund balance though, but that wasn't the intention. And the mistake was that in order to calculate the rate, you divide, the number of gallons used by the budget. You get a cost per gallon. But the mistake made was that instead of using the gallons billed, it was a gallons pumped. And almost half the water doesn't get billed. So that makes the revenues about half of what was anticipated.
Almost to the
penny was half.
penny, yeah.
It seems like a lot of going missing water, but that includes the water that's lost with the line flushing and the water that's lost in leaks. And we had serious leak where we were pumping for 24 hours, continuously. And it was 50,000 gallons a day while we were doing that. So that inflates the total, but nobody's paying for it. It's lost.
I don't see any problem with that budget as is.
Which one?
I don't see any problem with budget as is for the water district.
What are they, have they been using the Badger reading thing?
Yes.
And it's working all right?
Yes. I mean, from everything that I've heard.
There are a couple of minor switches, but they're using it.
It's getting worked out?
Yeah.
Cool.
Better. We spent $5,000 just to train to use it last year.
I know.
We were there for
I know that technology changes like that.
2 days, it's like pretty good money.
Yeah. Do you want to have highway in? Like maybe the next meeting, have Keith come in and talk? Any other departments or anything that we can contact that you might want to have? And we can hear from the park. You know, see what they're,
One
what
we
they're
might want to
thinking.
focus on is fun.
Yes, good idea.
Right. I mean, there was thought that there would be lifeguards this year, right? This coming year, next summer.
We tried real hard.
No, I know, this summer didn't work out.
But Marianne has somebody lined up for next year.
Oh.
Who wasn't old enough to be the lifeguard. They could be an assistant, but not the chief.
So you want to set something up with pond, with highway?
Okay. Maybe we could, one of us could check with the state about the condition of the water or
well, you know, we have to test to make sure that it passes.
Right.
I mean, it's
getting
mowed. We actually had to shut it down because the water wasn't clean enough.
Right, right.
Of course, we didn't test this year because there wasn't any swimming. You know, if it's not safe, then you don't get to do it. Right. That doesn't address the goose poop all over the ground.
Right.
And, it may not be a health hazard, but it's certainly unpleasant.
Yes.
To be walking barefoot around there.
Well, maybe, you know, there's always that thing about if you don't mow, they'll usually go somewhere else.
Because they like to eat fresh grass.
Well, they just like to be where there's no tall grass.
Nope.
But I don't know, maybe we could check into that, see what's.
I mean, we can certainly not mow, but you know, my feeling on mowing has always been that it invites vandalism when things aren't sort of kept neat and tidy because it looks like it's being neglected.
Like it is. Yeah. Yeah. No. Right.
Even when it isn't.
Yeah.
Well, that is the problem with ticks. If you don't mow, then you get lots of ticks.
Well, that's true.
The deer and their mice. Yeah. But
no good answers.
I mean, we could think about, you know,
trade-off here. The grass clipped and then the deer, the geese find probably the fresh growth is most attractive.
Of course, maybe the geese eat the ticks. You know, we could get some chickens.
So then in the next meeting,
what if we had chickens? Would that keep the geese away?
Sorry.
Of course, then you had chickens.
Put a dog on.
It might be the other way around. The geese might go after
dog. Kill a dog.
So the ponds, the highway, well, maybe in the next meeting, we'll talk about the solar.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. We've talked about pond, highway, solar.
Okay.
There's water, which we just went through. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Worth looking at the planner. I looked at the budget, but I don't know whether there's anything.
We don't have an extraordinary amount, and we are talking about possibly doing launching the redo of the comprehensive plan, major update, because it's been 20 years, 2003,
Can we get a grant to do that? Hire another, I mean, we had somebody else.
Look at that, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that would go in the budget. That might go in that budget, hiring somebody to write a grant, or if the planner has to add that. I mean, what are you thinking about, Pat?
I just wondered whether we wanted to have the planner come in and speak. I'm not, it didn't look to me like there was a big need, but I just wanted to check. And it didn't look like there was a big need for the code enforcement either. That seems pretty standard.
Mm-hmm.
Any need for the justices? That looks pretty standard to me too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
On code enforcement and also on the planner, one we did give some thought, and that's what part of that $20,000 is for, is to do a better job with compliance, and we don't have a regular system in place for identifying violations of our either building permit requirements or enforcing the property maintenance, quote-unquote junk law. And we need neither Steve nor Greg nor David before them had much experience with the enforcement side of things. And we need to invest, in my opinion, some getting them trained, and also get procedures in place to follow up. So when somebody's cited for being in violation, it's just a negotiation that goes on in normal procedures. You're out of compliance, you need to do something, they can work it out, ideally, where somebody commits to doing something within a certain time frame, that should be tracked. So that, and having the, adding that to what the planner does and what the code enforcement officer does, is hard to do because they're already pretty well occupied with what they're doing. But if we can add that,
that's not part of code officer duty.
Yeah, it is. But what I'm saying is, it'd be nice if the code officer had some staff support, so that you could focus on, so that not that he doesn't have to do the negotiations of it, but we still need to have procedures set in place. But here's what happens when we could track. This is what the agreement was at the end of the period. The support says you're off the end. Now what? And then if people don't do what they say that they agree to do, or alternatively, if they refuse to negotiate and won't do, then we need to have a procedure in place for taking them to court, so that we're getting ready to do that. Producing the necessary documentation and so forth. All those procedures need to be better developed and implemented. And I can't see us doing it without adding some staff support to do it, because you've seen, and I have too, there's a lot for the planner to do, and there's a lot for code to do, and I can't see them carving out significant initiative in this regard without other things suffering.
And I think maybe one of the reasons to think about this is that we do hear from citizens that want something done about things that have been, for instance, that derelict house. When are you going to do something about that? Or when are you going to do? So that it's not that we're looking for things to go after people, but we are trying to respond to the people who are saying there's a problem in my neighborhood.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm thinking, where's Paul? Paul would probably be really helpful with this conversation.
Yeah.
Yes, you guys are.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's what I was thinking is we could use some support. That could be, and this question, where is this support going to come from? It could be in the clerk's office, more hours for somebody. Cindy has made it clear that she doesn't want to do that, and she doesn't want to extend her hours beyond 20 either. So we're looking at somebody else. It could be something, for instance, that Alyssa might have done when she was providing support for the planner. If we need to add another person, we'll have to ask will it be a second deputy clerk? Or could it could be an assistant to supervisor. Have to think about,
or to code.
Who is this person going to answer, basically?
Seems like code would be a good place for that. If code were in charge of receiving the complaints and knowing about the permits, and then that well, code and zoning things that are
both. Yeah, they could share. And that person could be, depending on whether we end up contracting for, what it is, a contractual thing, contracting.
So you're thinking, Joel, with that contractor with the website and writing the newsletter, that this person would also do that, or would this be a different person? This would be a different person, and that's where you, when you said that you didn't want to be paid to be the deputy supervisor, that
changed my mind.
Okay. That's all right.
No,
you can change your mind.
No. I mean, I really think Paul would be helpful. Like, and I keep wanting to say, let's not think about it in terms of person, but where
job.
should it be?
Right, I agree.
Where should it, not, like Alyssa or Cindy or, but that we need to figure out where it belongs. And if it belongs in code and, looking at, the code enforcement person's duties, why is it not working out? I don't know, what do other people do? What other towns do? Who does their enforcement, or,
Yeah, and it's also, I'm not clear because we have done so little of this.
Paul sounded like he used to do it a lot.
It kind of gave that impression, but that wasn't my impression at the time.
No, no.
The authority on this I've gotten from the code review group that the counties and we were looking at potential for collaboration.
Right.
One of the areas that is potentially for collaboration was in what they call it presentment and prosecution.
Right.
And they're talking in terms of maybe because the experience of the individual courts varies widely.
Right.
Some of them just have there's not a whole lot of these kind of cases coming before them. So there's a learning curve for the judges every time something comes up. Having maybe a court that would focus on code enforcement, issue cases is that one of the things being talked about.
Excuse me.
And the other thing that's being talked about is to what extent can we share some of the whether we have a county person to do the presentment and enforcement component. So there's a potential for collaboration on this where it'd be cheaper than every town trying to figure out how to deal with it. But the other thing that became clear because of the code enforcement officials being the authority on this is authorities on this matter are Guy Crow and Marty Mosley, who's the head of the code department at the town of Ithaca. They collectively have fine-tuned the process for bringing things to court because they have a lot more cases than we do.
Right.
And so they have way more experience than we do. And one possibility, and I spoke to Greg about this today, was instead of having Guy train, whether we could approach with Marty was the other half of it.
Right.
And maybe use some of the training budget to have Steve and Greg basically spend some time with Marty and learn, here's how you do it.
Right. It would be nice to try and keep it local. That's just my opinion.
But anyway, these are all things that are being talked about in that code thing. They've identified several possible areas of collaboration.
Well, since you brought up collaboration, I think that's one of the things that is valuable with that TTOG or whatever all else that you do attend, that we, sharing that information is something that many of us don't know happens. And it is covering a lot of the issues that we have in the town that can change as more collaboration considered.
That particular initiative came out not out of TCOG, but out of there's a shared services panel every year. That's a state mandate. It was a state mandate. It's now become optional. You don't have to do it every year. We took last year off.
Yeah.
But the supervisors of all the municipalities get together and working with the county leadership, try to identify areas where there's a potential for shared services that would be cost savings.
Right.
That's where the initiative this year for the EMS thing with they call it a fly car, basically. That came out of that. And the initiative of the year, I guess you would say, was try to buttress the holes we have in providing emergency response.
Right.
So if we're not using an ambulance, we don't need one, and then we got somebody to respond when times when their volunteers are short. So that came out of that process too. So right. I had a long chat with Greg today about some of these things.
Great.
Fresh in my mind.
Yeah.
Do we need to do something for the water?
No, I think, I mean, if the sense is that part of the budget looks okay, then I think we might conclude it as it is in the tentative budget. I guess you could say that part's preliminary.
Yeah.
So you're thinking in general, when you're looking at the numbers, you're thinking that the amount that is in here right now, maybe you're going to move things between accounts, but staying under the tax cap by that $600 is a place where you're gonna aim for. It might change as you're going through some of this stuff, but you're going to aim for that.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking as we're doing preparing and trying to, you know, go through some of this stuff that's really kind of on your mind is to try to stay under the tax cap. And we'll see where we're at and what comes up in the next meeting as we're going through some of these other categories.
I feel it's a little preliminary for me to say yes.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't.
Right.
Yeah.
But we have a direction.
Yeah.
We have a direction as we're going through the rest of the process.
You know, being under the tax cap was almost gratuitous.
Yeah.
Where I was coming at it from was saying, well, what can we reasonably accommodate, and then I'm willing to use some of the fund balance,
right,
as long as we're not, you know, depleting it. And essentially, I think we're pretty much at a neutral place where, you know, we're not increasing it, but we're not decreasing it either. So if we adjust it a little bit one way or the other, you know, I'm okay with that. And that puts us just under the tax cap.
Just under that, under the tax cap.
Nice surprise for you when you were
But
doing
also,
it. Yeah.
if the rules are still the same,
yeah.
I believe when the different entities all stay under the tax cap, then our residents get a refund.
Yeah.
That went away.
Did that go away?
Yeah, there's no consequence.
But the school also had to.
Did it really go? I didn't realize that. I know that we've been over a little bit.
Yeah.
So.
That was probably a bad idea. Yeah.
They were giving that incentive.
Yeah.
Right. That incentive is gone. So I mean, the tax cap, it's
a target, but
it's a target, right? Exactly, and you know, it means something to people to say, well, stay under the tax cap. But exceeding the tax cap doesn't have any real, you know, negative consequences other than the fact that you're, you know, it looks like you're spending more money than you need to, I suppose. But it's hard to stay under that tax cap in some years. Stop talking. Yes. Anyway, we're under right now. Not a bad thing.
the town's done pretty well in staying under as much as possible. There were just a very few years that we went over, and we, of course, we had to last year with all the different things that were happening. But
I think it's important to note last year was somewhat unique in terms of all the new things that had to be done, and it was unique because it was the end of the pandemic.
Yeah.
All the supply chain things totally screwed up everything that you could spread out
and the expenditures. For those items.
Screwed all those up. So we did very well last year, making up for all those bad times.
I mean, that's one of the things this chart would do is show people, you know, how often we've gone over the tax cap. Not very often.
I'll pull that out and update it.
Yeah. Do you want me to make a copy? Or do you have it?
I know which one it is. I can't read it from here, but I see the layout. I know exactly which one that is. You know who asked for that?
Back from 10/12/20.
Yeah, Dan Klein asked for that. Dan Klein asked for that years ago.
Yeah.
When I started preparing that. Yeah.
I really appreciate the collaboration here amongst you and the highway and the board, and working toward this together is really a big deal to me. Thank you, Laura.
Oh, you're so welcome. My pleasure. Thank you guys. You make it, you know, so that you're ready to analyze these things and come up with a target. And you have the understanding of it. So you got the understanding of it from going through it for several years, of how to end up with a target even in one meeting. But that was very good, very cool when we were doing it, and we had no idea of the tax cap. And then we thought, oh no, how much over are we going to be? And
how do we do this?
And
well, I looked at the percent increase and said, no, we might be close.
Yeah.
And I said, yes, we are close, and we're a little bit.
Yeah.
And items for the next agenda. You want to add besides dealing with the budget more?
Yes, we do need to, yes. Yes. In fact, we had.
What would you like?
But we're going to talk to who wants to come to listen.
We had a list of people who are coming to.
Yes. I'm saying, what I'm asking is, are there other items you want to put on the agenda for next time?
No.
I mean, there will be other items, but we don't have anything we want to raise.
Yeah.
okay with meeting at a regular meeting and having it be with that. I'm okay with that.
It's going to be the public hearing at that meeting.
Right.
Yeah, right. That'll be the public hearing on the tax cap overlay.
Okay.
Okay. Well, with that, we are at time, and I think we can adjourn.
I want to say one thing because you were talking about the water testing, and this is just a nice thing. But I heard Rachel Maddow talked about Jimmy Carter, and he one of the things that he wanted to do before he died was he wanted to eliminate. I never heard of this horrible thing, guinea worms.
Yes.
In the world, there were hundreds of thousands of cases of extremely pain. It's horrible. I don't want to talk about
from
that.
contaminated water, right?
Yes, from contaminated water. And now there are 6. And Jimmy Carter just turned 99, so it's possible that there will be no more guinea worms. Yeah, no, we'll keep the guinea hen, but no more guinea worms.
Yeah.
And that, that's the kind of thing that long-term views of what can be done when
focusing on the problem.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's a public health thing. It's where people actually work toward the public's good. Yeah. So wanted to say that. And happy birthday, Jimmy Carter, 99, and still has a goal.
That was an issue with the Carter Center.
Yeah. That he meant
a bunch of other things too.
Habitat.
You want one?
Monitoring election.
Yeah.
Anyway,
all right. Hey.
Thank you everyone for coming.
I think we need to call it some